There we go. Oh no, I died. Well, it's a good run. Alright, let's see. Is this tablet alive? Oh, you may have killed it. I don't know. And I don't know what happened to your phone. It's going to be a fun night. Okay. Thank God you have the TV. Okay. All right. So, all right. As we left off, revolt. And yeah. So you may scratch your foot. So you didn't even notice until I said sorry, did you? I shouldn't have said anything. Rebellion from 2 Kings chapter 24 verses 1 through 6, and Jeremiah chapter 27, chapter 28 1 through 12, and chapter 37 1 through 10. What are you doing? Hey, cover that. What are you doing? King Jehoiakim's. I think I'm saying that wrong, but can't think of another way to say it. What? You're gonna pronounce this Joachim? Jehoiakim. There's a lot of vowels in there. Okay. That's definitely not Joaquin. And let's do my Jehoiakim. Okay. King Jehoiakim's revolt against Babylon is well underway when suddenly he dies. His son, oh gosh, these names, Jehoiachin, comes to the throne and pledges to uphold his father's stand for Judah's freedom. In spite of the king's opposition, Jeremiah repeats his warning. What? Oh, I'll do the challenge when we're done reading. Okay? Yeah. I'll do it when we're done reading. Okay? I promise. But let's finish our reading first. All right? Jeremiah repeats his warning. Judah made an agreement with Babylon, and Judah will be punished for breaking it. Jeremiah knows that the time is short, but he continues to plead with his people to stop the revolt. His pleas are ignored. Then one day, the Babylonians are coming. With full force, the army of Babylon storms the walls of Jerusalem. Young Jehoiachin, who has ruled 3 months, is forced to surrender to King Nebuchadnezzar. This time I will take your treasures, your nobles, and your skilled workers and your king. Let this be a lesson to you who are left. So Jeremiah's prophecy comes true. The temple treasures are looted. The king and 10,000 of Judah's ablest men are led away. Prince Zedekiah is made king after he promises loyalty to Babylon. For a few years, King Zedekiah pays tribute to Babylon. Then, in spite of Jeremiah's warnings, he begins to listen to some hot-headed young advisors in his court. What do we get from the money paid to Babylon? Well, we get peace. That seems like a fair trade. Peace, but not freedom. Maybe the Egyptians will help us. They hate Babylon too. Let me think about it. When Jeremiah learns that there is talk of another revolt, he puts an ox yoke on his shoulders and walks through the streets. What's the meaning of this? Babylon has struck twice, and it will strike again. Next time, it will destroy Jerusalem. Judah's only hope of survival is to wear the yoke of Babylon, as I am wearing this one. I'll show you what to do with the yoke of Babylon. Break it. During all this time, Egypt keeps an anxious eye on the growing tension in Judah. At the right moment, it sends an ambassador to King Zedekiah. Babylon is your enemy as well as ours. Alone, neither one of us can defeat them, but together we can, and we will. Accused, from Jeremiah 37 to 38, verse 6. Backed by Egypt's promise to help, King Zedekiah of Judah revolts against the control of Babylon. Jeremiah argues against the decision. Babylon has spared Jerusalem twice before, but if you go through with this revolt, Babylon will not spread the city again. But this time we'll win. Judah will be free. As Jeremiah prophesied, Babylon answers the revolt with a swift attack. For weeks, the soldiers of Judah fight to defend Jerusalem's walls. The Egyptians, why don't they come as they promised? Then, suddenly, the attack ceases. The Babylonians are breaking camp. They're giving up the siege. We've won. Judah is free. Long live King Zedekiah. No, the Babylonians have not quit. They've gone to stop the Egyptians who were coming to help us. They'll be back. How does he know so much about what the Babylonians are doing? A few days later, Jeremiah starts on a trip to his hometown, a few miles from Jerusalem, but before he gets out of the gate, he is stopped. Halt, you're under arrest. Why? I have done nothing wrong. In spite of his innocence, Jeremiah is thrown into prison. Within a few weeks, the Babylonians, after defeating the Egyptians, return to the gates of Jerusalem. Jeremiah's enemies bring him before the king and accuse him of being a traitor. I repeat the warning God has given. Invaders from the north will conquer Judah. God has chosen the Babylonians to destroy our nation because of the sins of its people. It's this kind of talk that makes our soldiers lose courage. Put this traitor to death, or the city will fall. He is in your hands. Do what you want with him. Quickly, before the king can change his mind, Jeremiah is put into an old cistern beneath the prison floor. Let him starve to death. A prophecy comes true. From Jeremiah 38, verse 7 through 43, verse 7. During the siege of Jerusalem, some nobles accused Jeremiah of being a traitor and have him thrown into an old cistern. But Ebed-Melech, a servant in the palace, gets permission from the king to put Jeremiah in the prison yard. Thank God for your help. I would have died in that awful hole. As the siege continues, people in Jerusalem are starving and beg for food. At last, the frightened king calls for Jeremiah. What will happen to us? If you surrender, Jerusalem will be saved. If you do not, it will be burned. Surrender? I don't dare. My own people will turn against me. Jeremiah is taken back to prison. The siege goes on, but at the end of 30 months, the Babylonians have broken through the wall. Jerusalem will be destroyed, but it will rise again. And someday God's commandments will be written in the hearts of men who choose to obey God. They will live together in peace. King Zedekiah tries to escape, but is captured and blinded. The king Jeremiah and most of the able-bodied people are captured to be taken to Babylon. But in the captive camp at Ramah, the king of Babylon has learned that you tried to keep your country from rebelling against him. So he has sent orders to set you free. Thank God. Now you can help the people who have been left in Israel without a leader. About a month after Jerusalem is taken, the Babylonian officer returns, takes more captives, and then sets fire to the city. The fire rages for days until the once proud capital of Judah becomes a heap of smoldering ruins. The Babylonians set up headquarters at Mizpah and appointed an Israelite to act as governor. Jeremiah joins him and becomes his advisor. Together we'll encourage the people to build up their homes and replant their vineyards and fields. Someday the captives will return, and Judah will become a nation again. But before the governor's dream can come true, he is murdered by some Israelites who are jealous of his power in the country. Fearful that Babylon will blame all of Israel for the murder, a group of people go to Jeremiah. We want to go to Egypt, where there is peace and plenty to eat. You will find neither peace nor plenty in Egypt. Stay here, the Babylonians will not hurt you. But the people do not believe Jeremiah. They flee to Egypt, forcing him to go with them. And there, until he dies, Jeremiah tries to lead his people back to God. The grief of the Jews over the destruction of Jerusalem is expressed in a group of poems found in the Book of Lamentations, which they're just going to skip. It looks like 10,000 captives from Ezekiel 1. To understand the book of Ezekiel, you must turn back the pages of time to Babylon's second siege of Jerusalem. Jerusalem surrendered and was forced to watch 10,000 of its people march away as captives. But God did not forsake these captives. He called one of them, a young priest named Ezekiel, to serve as his prophet among the exiles in Babylon. Frightened and weary from the 900-mile march, the 10,000 captives from Judah reached the gates of Babylon, the giant city of their conquerors. Only God knows what will happen to us now. Ezekiel, a young priest, and his wife are among the captives wondering where they live. Where are we going? To Tel Aviv, on the Chebar Canal. You can build your homes there and work the fields. In the months that follow, Ezekiel works hard to make a living in the new land. It is not as bad as I feared. We are well treated and we are together. Yes, we may have to stay here the rest of our lives, but God is with us wherever we are. But not all of the captives feel the same way. When you think of Ezekiel planting trees and planning to build a house, looks as if he intends to stay in Babylonia. He's wasting his time. We'll be on our way home in a couple of years. When the news reaches God's prophet Jeremiah in Judah, he writes a letter to the captives. Jeremiah says it is God's will that we stay here. We should build homes and work for the good of our new country. We will be here for 70 years. Did you hear that, Ezekiel? 70 years? I don't believe it. Jeremiah speaks the will of God. Ezekiel shows his faith by building a house. We'll make a large courtyard, big enough to invite people here to worship God. I used to think that we could worship God only in the temple in Jerusalem, but now I know we can worship him anywhere. One day, Ezekiel sees a strange sight in the sky. That cloud and the wind. Is it a storm? Fire bursts from the cloud. 4 winged creatures flash back and forth like lightning. By each winged creature is a wheel, and above all is a glorious throne. It is a vision of the glory of God. A message of hope from Ezekiel 1 to 48. In a strange and beautiful vision, God called Ezekiel to be his prophet and speak to the people of Jerusalem who are captives in Babylon. Following God's command, Ezekiel draws the outline of the city, and around it places an enemy camp. This is Jerusalem. It has turned from God to worship idols, and for this it will be destroyed. No, no, not Jerusalem, not our holy city. Ezekiel keeps warning the people that Jerusalem will be destroyed. They refuse to believe him. Then, suddenly, Ezekiel's wife dies, but the prophet shows no outward sign of grief. We mourn for your wife, Ezekiel. Why do you not mourn for the one you loved? Yes, I loved her very much, but God has commanded me not to show my grief, as a sign that you are not to show your grief when Jerusalem falls. But the people will not give up believing that Jerusalem will be standing, strong and beautiful, waiting for their return. One day, a man staggers wearily into their midst. What brings you here? I'm from what was Jerusalem. What was? What do you mean? It was terrible. The Babylonians surrounded the city. Many of our people starved to death. Others were killed. We held out for 18 long months. Then they broke through the walls. The king, Jeremiah, and most of the people were taken captive. Our beautiful city in ashes. Why did God allow it? Our forefathers worshipped idols. They're to blame for this. You too have sinned and are to blame. But God loves you and will forgive you if you stop doing wrong and start doing what he wants you to do. Those who obey God will return home to build a new nation. Captives in Babylon. From Daniel 1, chapter 2, verse 13. The story of what happened to a royal captives from Judah begins when Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, entered the city of Babylon at the end of their 900-mile march from Jerusalem. What do you think they'll do to us, Daniel? I don't know, Shadrach, but I am sure of this. God is with us. Soon after the prisoners reach the city, Daniel and several others are brought before an officer of King Nebuchadnezzar. As nobles from Jerusalem, you will be given a chance to try out for positions in the king's court. But I warn you, only the smartest and strongest can pass our tests. For days, the young men are given examinations to test their physical strength and mental alertness. This is the last test. By tomorrow, you will know how many passed. But if we fail, we've done our best. That's all we can do. The next day, you have all passed. Now you'll be given 3 years to study under our wise men. After that, the king himself will choose those best qualified to be his advisors. Oh God, thank you. Help us pass these new tests so that we may advise the king in a way that will please you. The young men are taken at once to the palace to begin their studies. They're given the best of everything, even food from the king's table. Thank you. We cannot eat this meat and drink this wine. Our Hebrew laws forbid it. Give us plain food and water, please. But it's the king's order. We dare not disobey. I like you, Daniel, but I don't want to get into trouble. Give us a 10-day trial. Let us eat our food and then see if we are not stronger than the others. The test is made, and at the end of the 10 days, there's no doubt, Daniel and his friends not only look stronger, they are stronger. At the end of the 3 years, the young men are brought before the king. He talks with each one, then makes his decision. I have chosen these 4, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to serve as my advisors. There is none to equal them, sir. Daniel and his friends become popular members of the king's court. But one day the king has an unusually difficult problem, and he calls for only his older, more experienced advisors. I had a strange dream, but I have forgotten it. Tell me what it was, and what it meant, and what it means. We can tell you what a dream means, sir, but no man can tell you what you dreamed. What good are advisors if they can't tell me what I want to know? Put these men to death, and every wise man in my kingdom. The captain of the king's guard is forced to carry out his ugly task. Daniel, you and your friends are under arrest. The king has ordered all of his wise men put to death. To death? Why? What have we done? And I think that is where we will end for tonight. Hey, could you be a little less spread eagle? I see that boogie in there. I'm gonna get it. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna get it. All right. Can you say goodnight? No? One of these days I'll get him to say it. All right, good night, guys.